Have you ever come across something you just can't explain? Not something weird or supernatural, just something wrong. That's what this is. Something wrong. I work as a freelance digital archivist. It's just a fancy way of saying I sort through old footage home videos, security tapes, research projects, and restore them for digital storage. It's mostly boring stuff. Dusty VHS conversions, old analog reels, damaged hard drives. But this one was different. It came in a plain manila envelope, no return address. Just a sticky note attached to the drive that said, "Please fix this. It's important." That's it. No name, no instructions. Just those 4 words. When I plugged it in, my computer froze for a second. Then a folder popped up with a single file inside. No name, no timestamp, just footage. MP4. I remember thinking it was strange that the file size kept shifting. It started at 4 gigabytes, then 5, then 6. Like it was growing. I should have stopped right there. But curiosity. It's a disease, isn't it? You just don't stop scratching until you bleed. So I double-clicked the file. The video started with thick, grainy static, like an old CRT television. Then it cut to what looked like home security footage. A living room, dimly lit, with a timestamp blinking in the corner. The 12th of January 2013 to 17 a.m. Nothing happened at first, just the soft hum of a fridge somewhere off-screen, a couch, a lamp, a few family photos hanging crooked on the wall. And then, movement. A man walked into the frame, wearing sweatpants, rubbing his eyes. He sat on the couch and just stared blankly toward the camera. It looked accidental, like a camera someone forgot to turn off. He didn't speak. He didn't move much. He just stared. And after a minute, something in the corner of the screen moved. At first, I thought it was a reflection, a trick of the light, but then it shifted again slowly, deliberately. There was a face, pressed up against the window behind him. It wasn't clear, but it was there, pale, expressionless, like someone watching quietly from the outside. The man on the couch didn't seem to notice. Then the feed just cut. I blinked. The file closed itself. I thought my system had crashed, but when I reopened the folder, the file was there again. Except now there were 2 files. Footage_1.mp4 and footage_2.mp4. Both the same size. I checked the first one again. It was exactly as before, but the second one, it was different. Same timestamp, same room. But this time, there were 2 faces in the window, and my stomach just dropped, because one of the faces was mine. I sat there, frozen, staring at my own reflection on the screen. The pale ghost of my own features pressed up against the glass in someone else's house from a video recorded years ago. I checked the metadate, no edit history. No manipulation, no trace of tampering. It shouldn't have been possible. I convinced myself it was an overlay glitch, maybe a reflection from my webcam, or some kind of corrupted data. So I disabled the camera, unplugged the mic, and turned off the Wi-Fi. Then I reopened the folder. Now there were 3 files, and my heart just stopped when I saw the third one. The footage was identical to before, same man, same room, but now he was gone. The couch was empty, and in his place, standing dead center in the frame, was me. Just standing there. Standing straight into the camera. I don't remember recording it. I don't even own the clothes I saw myself wearing, but it was me. Same scar above my eyebrow, same tired expression. My mouth moved slowly, deliberately, but no sound came out. And then, just before the clip ended, I raised my hand and pointed directly at the screen. Directly at me. That night, I barely slept. I kept hearing these little clicks, the sound of my hard drive spinning up on its own. When I checked, it was copying the file, duplicating it again and again. By morning, there were 7 versions, each one different, each one longer, each one showing more faces in the window. The last one showed me asleep at my desk. The timestamp said 3:12 a.m., which means it was filmed while I was asleep. I could see my own body slumped over the keyboard, the monitor still glowing faintly. And then, in the background movement, something crawled out from behind me. A shape. A human shape, but not right. Not real. It was my face again, pale, stretched, distorted, dragging itself across the floor like it was wearing my skin, but didn't know how to move in it. It crept up behind me, raised a trembling hand, and pressed it against my shoulder. The camera flickered, and then I woke up. I told myself it was stress. Too many late nights, too much caffeine. But then the next morning, my keyboard had a handprint on it. A perfect print-oily human and cold. I threw the drive in a drawer and tried to forget about it. For a few days, things were quiet. Until my computer turned itself on at 3 a.m., I sat up in bed and watched the glow of the monitor flicker through the doorway. It opened the folder by itself. One new file. Footage_8.mp4. I didn't touch it. I didn't go near it. But even from across the room, I could hear it playing. Soft static, and then whispering. Dozens of voices, all overlapping, all faintly saying the same thing. We're not done adding faces yet. The next day, I tried to destroy the drive. A hammer, heat, even acid. But no matter what I did, it stayed intact. When I finally plugged it back in, just to see, there was only one new file. It was called Final MP4. I don't know why, but I opened it. The footage started with me sitting right where I was, staring at my own screen. The lighting was the same. The clock behind me said 6:34 p.m., exactly the current time. It was a live feed, except in the video, someone was standing behind me. I spun around, nothing. When I looked back at the screen, they were closer. Their face was still blurred, but getting clearer with every frame. Then the feed glitched and froze on one image. A close-up. My face, but not mine. Every frame, a new expression. Fear, anger, sadness, agony. Like hundreds of versions of me, all trapped, all screaming silently from inside the pixels. The final frame was a single word written across my forehead. Next, that was 3 nights ago. Now, every time I turn my computer on, the webcam light blinks, even when it's unplugged. I've stopped checking the folder, but the file count keeps growing. I can hear the whispering sometimes, right behind the fan's hum. It's getting louder, clearer. Last night, I made the mistake of glancing at my reflection in the dark screen. And for the briefest second, I saw someone else staring back. He looked just like me, but he smiled. And he mouthed the words, "We've added you." Now the lights flicker. The whispers never stop. And when I close my eyes, I see all of them. Every face the file ever captured. They're still there, waiting in the dark, pixelated and patient. And I think I finally understand what the message meant. It doesn't add faces. It takes them, one by one, until the only face left to take is yours. They said the footage was cursed, that no one who worked on the film ever finished it. I didn't believe any of it until I saw the raw recording for myself. The movie was called The Red Door *, a small indie horror project shot in an abandoned warehouse just outside of LA, low budget, tiny crew, one single night of shooting. We all thought we were making fiction, but here's the thing. Fiction doesn't scream like that. I was hired as the sound engineer, the guy whose job is to catch every single whisper and breath on set. It was around 2 o'clock in the morning when we started filming the final crucial scene. The script was simple. The actress, Lydia, was supposed to open a red-painted door and pretend to see something so horrifying it drives her insane. An easy scene, right? A classic horror trope. Except, when she opened that door, something else was waiting for her. From the monitor, I saw her freeze completely. Her mouth fell open, but at first, no sound came out at all. and then she screamed. It was a scream so sharp, so piercing, that my equipment overloaded instantly. I shouted, "Cut!" but she didn't stop. She started clawing at her own face, tearing at her skin like she was trying to rip something off. The director, Ethan, ran toward her to help, but he tripped hard. It was like the air itself just shoved him back. The lights flickered violently. And for a split second, I saw something in the doorway. It wasn't a person. It wasn't even a shadow. It looked like movement given a physical shape, a ripple in reality. We stopped the shoot immediately. Lydia wouldn't speak. She just kept staring at the red door, her eyes completely vacant. Ethan tried to pass it off as brilliant method acting, but her eyes, they were gone. It was like she wasn't behind them anymore. Later that night, I went through the footage, trying to salvage what I could. The video looked fine, surprisingly clean. But when I played the audio, it was all wrong. There were extra voices, low, distorted whispers buried under Lydia's screams. They weren't from anyone on set, and they were calling names, not hers. Ours, one by one. When the whisper reached my name, the speakers burst into a wall of static. And I swear, in that moment, I heard something crawl inside the noise. Ethan became obsessed with finishing the film. He said the energy on set was authentic, that we'd captured something truly real. He insisted we had to shoot again. No one else showed up, except me. I don't know why I went back. When I arrived, the red door was still standing there, but the warehouse felt wrong. The air was thick, humming like high-voltage power lines. Ethan had set up the lights and the camera all by himself. He just looked at me and said, "I just need one more take." He stepped behind the door, whispered something I couldn't quite make out, and then opened it. The scream that came out wasn't his, it was hers. It was Lydia's voice, echoing from the deep darkness behind that door. The camera fell over. The lights went out. And then, absolute silence. When the emergency lights flickered back on, Ethan was gone. Only the camera was left, still recording on the floor. I took the footage home. I don't know why. Maybe it was morbid curiosity. Maybe it was guilt. When I tried to play it, the file name changed on its own. It became scene_666_take. Move, my blood ran cold. The screen flickered to life, showing Ethan's face, plush, drenched in sweat. He was sitting right in front of the red door, whispering to the camera. He said it wasn't acting. It wanted to feel something real. Then, the door behind him began to move. Hands, dozens of them, pressed against it from the other side, stretching the wood like it was flesh. The hinges creaked, a sound like bones snapping. And from the crack in the middle, something black and wet began to seep out, slowly, like thick oil. Then a face started to form in it. A face made of hundreds of other screaming faces. It whispered one word: cut. The footage glitched and froze on that image. And when I looked up from my monitor, my own reflection in the dark screen was smiling. I wasn't. I tried to show the footage to the police. But the drive wouldn't play for anyone else. Every time they plugged it in, all they saw was a video of their own faces, screaming in terror. The studio burned down a week later. They never found Ethan or Lydia. Just the red door warped, black and standing untouched in the middle of the ashes. Sometimes, at night, I still hear her voice from that last take. Not from any speakers. From the hallway right outside my room. She says the same line over and over. It wasn't acting. The pain was real. Last night, I dreamed of the red door. It was in my house this time, leaning against my bedroom wall. There was a light coming from under its, a pulsing deep red glow that painted the floorboards like blood. I could hear them on the other side, Lydia, Ethan, all the voices I heard in the audio recordings. They were whispering something in unison. I pressed my ear to the wood. It felt warm, almost alive. And then I heard it, clear as day. my own voice. It said, "Action." They say you should never listen to the end of the file. That's the rule. No matter what you hear, no matter how curious you get, you stop before the last minute. Because at the end, the voices start saying your name. I thought it was just another internet myth. You know, a haunted audio challenge. But I'm not laughing anymore. Because now, I can't make them stop. It all started when I was archiving old server data for a closed research project. Tucked away in a forgotten corner of the drive was a folder simply named Project Echo. Inside were dozens of sound clips, static hums, distorted breathing. But one file stood out. Echo_01_final. MP3. The metadata said it was recorded 11 years ago. No location, no speaker, no notes. Just one line in the description field. Do not listen past 321. I figured it was a joke from some board lab tech, maybe a test tone experiment. So, I hit play. At first, it was nothing but faint static, a gentle hiss, like an old vinyl record. Then, buried underneath, whispers. Faint and indistinct, like someone trying to talk through water. I couldn't make them out. I leaned closer to my speakers, straining to hear. I turned the volume up, way up. The whispers got clearer. They were layered, dozens of them, speaking in different tones, different cadences, all overlapping. I still couldn't make out the words, until one voice cut through the others. It was sharp, clear, and right in the center of the mix. It said, "I hear you." The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. The voice wasn't distant anymore. It felt close. Like someone was standing right behind me. I slammed the spacebar, pausing the file, but the whisper didn't stop. It echoed softly from my speakers for another few seconds before finally fading into silence. I laughed nervously, told myself it was just audio bleed, a hardware glitch. I restarted my computer, even deleted the browser cache. But when I opened my media player again, the file had reappeared. Except now, the name was different. Echo_02_ continues. MP3, my curiosity turned into a morbid fascination. I had to know what this was. I decided to test it. I played the file again, this time, with my phone recording my reactions. The whispers started earlier this time, and they were louder, clearer, and speaking English. "Left behind you, don't turn around." My heart pounded against my ribs, but I kept listening. Around the 3-minute mark, I realized something truly terrifying. The voices were repeating words I'd just spoken. I muttered to myself, "What is this?" And half a second later, a chorus of whispers replied in perfect unison, "What is this?" perfectly mimicking my tone, my inflection. Then, at exactly 3:21, they all fell silent. The static stopped. The room was dead quiet. I thought that was the end, but right as the timer on the player ticked over to 3:22, I heard it, a single whisper, soft and trembling, right next to my ear. It said my name. After that night, I started hearing them everywhere. In the low hum of my refrigerator, in the crackle of static before a phone call connects, in the silence between my own breaths. At first, it was faint, just my name, drawn out like a long sigh. Then they started saying other things. Things only I could possibly know. They whispered the name of my childhood dog, my old home address from when I was a kid. They even whispered the last words my father said to me before he died. Words I had never told anyone. Each time I tried deleting the file, it just came back a new version with a new timestamp. ECHO_03, ECHO_04, ECHO_05, each one slightly different, each one ending a few seconds later than the last. It was growing. It was learning. I was losing my mind. So I tried sending it to a friend, a sound engineer named Clara. She was a skeptic, but a genius with audio. She analyzed the file and called me back that night. I could hear she was crying. Her voice was shaking as she said, "This isn't audio. It's people." I asked her what she meant. She said when she ran a spectral analysis, she saw pattern shapes forming in the waveform. Faces, dozens of them, trapped in the sound. I never heard from her again. When I went to her apartment, the door was unlocked, her speakers still humming with white noise. On her computer screen was a new file. Echo_06_Clara.mp3. When I played it, all I heard was her voice. A single, desperate whisper, repeating one phrase over and over. "Please. Stop listening. I've tried everything since then, wiping my hard drives, destroying the hardware. I even moved to a new city. But no matter what I do, the voices follow. They don't need the file anymore. They're inside the silence now." I think that's what the experiment was, not about recording sound, but about transmitting something else. Something that learned how to live inside what we hear. And now, they're everywhere, waiting in the pauses between noise, whispering from the edges of every quiet room. I can hear them now, even as I speak. They're repeating every word I say perfectly, in sync but just half a breath behind me. And if you've listened this far, if you're hearing me right now, they know your name too. Because at the end of the file, they always find someone new to whisper to. So if you ever hear your name whispered in the dark, don't answer. Because once they know who you are, they never stop saying it. Thanks for listening. I'm not sure how many times I've watched it. 5, 6. Honestly, I've lost count, because every single time I press play, there's more blood. It all started when I moved into my grandfather's old house. He was a collector of weird things. Old cameras, dusty radios, and stacks of tapes. The basement was just shelves of dust and silence. But on the far wall, sitting all by itself like it was waiting for me, was a VHS tape. No label, no case. Just a plain black cassette with these faint, dark red stains on the edge. I almost tossed it. But curiosity, well, you know how that goes. The first time I played it, the footage was simple. It showed a man sitting in a dimly lit room, just staring. Staring straight into the lens. He didn't speak. He didn't move. The background was pitch black, but I could swear I saw shapes shifting behind him, like someone was breathing behind a curtain. Then, about 2 minutes in, blood. Just a few drops trickling down from his nose onto his shirt. And then the screen went black. That was it. 2 minutes and 37 seconds. I figured it was some forgotten art project until I watched it again. Same man, same camera angle. But this time, the blood started sooner. His nose was already bleeding when the footage began. His eyes looked hollower, and there was more noise in the background, a wet, dragging sound, like footsteps in mud. I rewound it, thinking I'd missed something. But when I hit play again, everything changed. The man wasn't sitting anymore. He was standing closer to the camera, and when he smiled, my stomach turned. His teeth were red. I tried to eject the tape, but it was stuck. So the VCR just whirred and clicked, like something inside was holding it captive. When it finally spat the tape out, there were fresh smudges of blood on the reel. I washed my hands over and over, but I couldn't get rid of the smell. That metallic, sickly, sweet smell was just wrong. I told myself I was just tired, that I'd imagined it. Until I checked the tape again the next morning. Now it was longer. 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The man was whispering this time. I couldn't make out the words at first, but when I slowed the audio down, he was whispering my name. That night, I woke up to the sound of static from the living room. The TV was on. The VCR light was blinking. The tape was playing all by itself. I froze when I saw the screen. The man wasn't alone anymore. There was a figure standing behind him, pale, thin, its hands twitching, and behind that figure, another and another, all motionless, all facing the camera. When the tape ended, I swear I heard footsteps upstairs, even though I lived completely alone. By the fourth viewing, I couldn't stop myself. It was like the tape wanted me to keep watching. Each time, there was more blood. On the man's face, splattered on the walls, even dripping from the ceiling. And the figures, they were closer now. I could see their faces. All blank, all identical. Until I recognized one. It was me. My face half hidden in the shadows behind him. My mouth was open. My eyes were black pits. I tried to burn the tape. It wouldn't catch fire. The flames just curled around the plastic, refusing to touch it. So I smashed the VCR to pieces and threw it in the trash. But that night, my TV turned on again. The image flickered back to life, burned into the screen itself, warped and melting. I could see the man again. But now, he wasn't just bleeding. He was screaming. His mouth was wide, his jaw unhinged, and the sound was like metal scraping against bone. And the blood. It wasn't just on the screen anymore. It was pouring out of the TV. Thick, dark, and real, pooling on my living room floor. I ran, but the screaming followed me. Every night after that, I'd wake up to new stains on my walls. Red fingerprints, handprints, sometimes words. Play, IT, and the tape. It was back on my table every single morning, rewound and ready. I called a friend to come over and see it, to prove I wasn't losing my mind. He thought it was a joke, till he watched. When the man on the screen smiled that bloody smile, my friend froze. Then his nose started bleeding, just like the man's. He screamed, tried to rip the tape out of the machine. But the screen just went black, and I saw his reflection still screaming, long after the TV had turned off. He left that night. He never answered my calls again. A week later, they found his car abandoned on the side of the road. His phone was inside, just recording hours and hours of static. Now, the tape's different again. It starts before I even press play. When I turn on the TV, my own reflection looks back at me a split second too late. And behind my reflection, there's always someone else standing there. The last time I watched, I saw something I can't unsee. The man from the tape. He was sitting in my living room, on my couch. Behind him, the wall was covered in blood. He looked at me through the screen and whispered, "Stop recording me." But I wasn't recording. He leaned closer to the lens. And then, for the first time, I realized it wasn't a recording at all. He was looking through the camera. He was watching me. Now, every time I close my eyes, I see static. When I sleep, I dream in VHS grain. And sometimes, when I blink, the screen blinks back. There's more blood now, not just in the tape. It's everywhere. On my hands, my floor, my face. I don't know what's real anymore, but I know this. Every time I watch it, there's more blood. And I think, one day, when there's nothing left but red, maybe the tape will finally be complete. Now, it's your turn. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more strange stories like this one, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Stay safe out there.